Good morning, kiddos. So by now, you guys should probably know a lot about the children of Israel. Before I get started, I want to just thank the Lord for being able to do this and for being asked to do it because I love the kiddos. They're just so wonderful, and I'm so thankful that they have the desire to want to know more about the scripture. So let's get into the story. So we know about these children of Israel who went down into a land called Egypt, and things were really good for them for a long time. While they were down there, they had someone helping them named Joseph. But years and years and years went by, and Joseph, he died, and things changed for the children of Israel, changed a lot. The Egyptians became hard taskmasters, which means that they were very, very difficult on the children of Israel. They made them work really, really hard, harder than they'd been working before. Well, the children of Israel started to ask God to be delivered, or in other words, to be set free from the Egyptians. Well, the Pharaoh, in the meantime, which was kind of like the president of Egypt, right? Or the king of Egypt, if you will, he did not like the fact that the children of Israel were getting larger and larger and larger, and more and more and more of the children of Israel were coming. So he got these two midwives together. Midwives they were kind of like doctors during that day, people who would help deliver babies. And he told them, he said, now, I want you to, when the Israelite women are having children, I want you to not let the boy children live, only the girl children. Of course, the midwives, being Israelite women themselves, they feared God, and they could not do that. They just couldn't allow themselves to do that. And so they spared the children of Israel, the boys. And what happened was the Pharaoh got even madder. He got pretty upset over the whole thing. And he was like, he brought them into him again, and he said, what is the problem? You know, the Israelite men continue to increase and get stronger and be more than us. And what he was worried about is that they would become such a great nation that they would actually make war with the Egyptians and overthrow their kingdom. So what happened then was he said, why is it? He brought the midwives, the kind of the doctors who delivered the babies for the children of Israel. He brought them to his palace, and he said, why do the children of Israel continue to increase and get stronger and stronger? And the Israelite midwives told the Pharaoh that the Israelite women aren't like the Egyptian women, that before they can even get to them, that they're having their babies, and there's no way that they could destroy them. So what happened then was the Pharaoh decided that he would take the midwives from the Egyptian, or from the Israelite women, Israelite people, and he would shut them up in a house. And he had the Egyptian people, once the children of Israel were born, go into the house, and if it was a boy, then he commanded for them to be thrown in the river. That's right, thrown in the river. Now the river was a great, rushing, very swift river called the Nile River. And it was full of crocodiles. And so he said all the girl children could live, but not the boy children. So one day there was a household and a mother who had birthed a boy child, and she could not throw him in the river. So she took and she wove a bunch of reeds together, and she put them one on top of the other, and she took pitch, which is kind of like mud, if you will, and she packed it around there really, really good, and she wrapped that baby in very soft clothing and swaddled it, and she put that baby down in that basket, and she took it out to the river, and she put it in what's called the bulrushes. And that baby had a sister, and that sister's name was Miriam. And Miriam watched her mother make the basket and put it down in the bulrushes and put the baby in there and take it to the river. And she watched in the bulrushes, and pretty soon the water came and got a little higher, and it swept the basket away, and Miriam followed it down the river. She watched it the whole way. Well, little did anybody know that while that water was taking the baby down the river, that there was a lady in the river with her handmaidens who was Pharaoh's daughter. In other words, it was the king of Egypt's daughter. And she was in the river, and she was bathing with her and her handmaidens, the ones who helped to take care of her. And all of a sudden, this basket came up. And it came up right in the midst of her and her handmaids. Well, Pharaoh's daughter didn't have any children. She couldn't have children. And so she plucked the baby from the basket, and Miriam was watching from afar off, and she wanted to keep the baby, but she wasn't able to give him nourishment like she should, and to be able to nurse the baby. So while she was standing there and admiring the baby, and her handmaids were behind admiring the baby as well, she asked her handmaids, what will I do? I won't be able to nurse the baby. I won't be able to nourish the baby, to feed the baby. Well, Miriam stepped out pretty quick, and she ran over to Pharaoh's daughter, and she said, you know, Your Highness, if I may, my mother, she just recently had a child, and she would be able to feed the baby, and she's a Hebrew. Just like the child, she's a Hebrew, because Pharaoh's daughter knew that it was a Hebrew child being in the river. And so Pharaoh's daughter said, yes, that would be great. Could you ask your mother if she would do that? And so she ran back home. She grabbed her mother and told her mother about the baby, and so Pharaoh's daughter named the baby Moses. And she took the baby into her home, and she raised him as an Egyptian. And as she raised him, she had Miriam and Miriam's mother, who was Moses' mother for real, nurse him and take care of him until a certain age. And after that certain age, then Moses' mother wasn't able to see him anymore. And that's kind of the story of the birth of baby Moses. And I think that the rest of those lessons are going to go on to tell you about the life of Moses and what all that he came to do for God and for the children of Israel. But you can see that the birth of baby Moses wasn't an easy one, but God had his hand on him and took care of him and made sure that he came to a place where he could do what God wanted him to do. And so it's a pretty amazing story about one of the greatest Bible characters that we have. So I hope you enjoyed the Sunday school lesson this morning. And again, I thank the Lord for being able to do it. It was such a privilege and a blessing. And you guys listen real close and learn all you can, because it's very important to know about the Bible. Love y'all. Bye-bye.